Hi, this is Ralph, and in these two videos I want to go over a couple of functions in Excel. I've already got some setup here that I created before starting my recorder. I've got a workbook with two worksheets. One worksheet is my summary sheet, and there's really nothing too fancy on here. I've got basically a summary for some finances, keeping track of several income categories, several expense categories, and I just have a few months up here, January through June. The only calculations I've got are in my total income cells, my total expense cells, and down here in my gain-loss cells. And they're a simple formula. I'm simply summing my income sources, I'm summing my expenses, and then I'm subtracting total income minus total expenses to find out the gain-loss. When I'm done, though, I'm not going to have entered any numbers in my summary sheet. My summary sheet is going to be populated automatically by Excel from information that's contained in my checkbook register, which is on my other worksheet. So this is my checkbook register, and I've gone and populated this with a bunch of mock data, but I've got some entries over here for 6 months. I had a balance that started off with $1,000, and I paid rent, bought groceries, got a paycheck from a job, and so forth. And all of these deposits and withdrawals affect my balance. So what I want Excel to do is I want Excel to look over my entire checkbook register and populate my summary sheet with all the proper totals. In order to do that, I'm going to be using the SUMIFS function. However, that's all going to come soon enough. Prior to even getting my SUMIFS function to populate my summary sheet, I want to do some things that's going to make my checkbook register a little bit easier to manage. For instance, I would like each odd number of month to be colored a different color than even number of months. That way it'll stand out various months. And as somebody types in a new month, a new entry in the checkbook, it'll automatically color that row appropriately. So that's one thing I'm going to do, and that's conditional formatting. The other thing I want to do with my checkbook is I want to have a drop-down menu of income categories and expense categories. In order for the SUMIFS function to work properly, I need to be sure that whenever I record, let's say, a paycheck from Ralph Co. Industries, that it always has the same income category and can be totaled up accurately. So I want to have a drop-down menu of choices to choose, and that way I won't be able to type the wrong thing in. So I'm going to do a couple things with the checkbook register: conditional formatting and setting up a drop-down menu of choices, data validation basically. Okay, now I'm going to start off with my conditional formatting. And to make it really obvious, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the first row of my checkbook register, which is really not a true entry, it's simply a balance carryover. So I started my balance at $1,000 on January 1st, 2010. So I'm going to select this row. I'm not clicking the row number, I'm literally selecting the cells for that first row. And then on my home ribbon, I'll go to conditional formatting, and I'm going to create a new rule. And I want to pick use a formula to determine which cells to format. There we go. So this is my entry here. Now, what I want to format is if the month is odd or even. They're going to get different colors, alternating colors, so it'll really stand out on my checkbook register. So I'm going to be using two functions. I'm going to be using a function called isOdd. There's also an isEven function. And I'll also use the month function. So for instance, I'm going to type in equals isOdd, and then I'll do a set of parentheses. Now within my isOdd function, I simply need Excel to determine is the month odd. So I'm going to use the month function, opening and closing set of parentheses. The month function will extract the month from a given date. Well, the date in question for this row that I've selected is in my cell A3. Okay? Now I don't want this to be absolute completely though. I'm going to take away the $sign from the row number. All of my dates are in column A, so having A absolute is fine. But each row is going to have to be determined individually, so I need the row number to change. So A3, absolute column, relative row. The month of A3, I want to know if it's odd or not. Now if it is an odd month, then let me do some formatting. I will make the background color, or the fill color, I'll go ahead and do that a light lavender here, and I'll click OK. So here's my function. If the month of A3 is odd, then give me a light purple fill. I'm going to click OK, and you'll notice that that month that row is now light purple because it's an odd numbered month. Now, let's check this out. I'm going to modify it a bit. I'm going to go back to Conditional Formatting, Manage Rules, rules that already exist, and I see there is my rule. If it's odd, give it a light purple. Currently, my rule is only applying to cells A3 to G3, yet my checkbook register is much larger than that. So I'm just going to change A3 to G3. I'll change it to A3 to G300. And watch when I click OK. There we go. So notice all of my Januaries are light purple. My even months haven't changed at all. March, light purple. There's April, May is light purple, and then it does continue on down to 300 because Excel thinks there's some odd numbers in there. I could select all of this, my entire worksheet, and I'll jump all the way down to 300. A little carried away there. Okay, so I've selected my entire worksheet, my entire checkbook register from A3 to G300, and I will simply change the fill color. I'll change this over to a light blue. Okay, this will give my even months a light blue color and my odd number of months a purple color. So I've got those two alternating colors. And let me show you that this is going to be kind of a live action also. Let me jump down here, and let's say it's now July. I could put in something like 7-10-2010, and of course it's going to stay light purple because that's an odd number month. But if I did another entry that was, let's say, 8-1-2010, that's an even month. So notice that goes to a light purple. I'm sorry, to a light blue. So that I can get these odd number of months. Let me just kind of autofill a few dates, and there's a bunch of light blues, and then so forth. So I'm using some conditional formatting to change the entire row of a particular month. And if it doesn't seem contrasting enough, then I can simply select everything. I just did a select to G300, and let me change it to something more dramatic. There we go. So now I've got some more emphasis on there. Odd number of months, or odd numbered month, even month. Okay, so that's a little bit of conditional formatting. Now the next thing I want to do with my checkbook register is I want to get some nice, clear drop-down menus for my income categories and my expense categories. So I'll just go ahead and select my first income category. I'm going to head to the Data ribbon. I'm going to go to the Data Validation option and choose Data Validation. The validation criteria is going to be a list. The source of my list is going to be back on my summary sheet, and I'm going to select my two possible income sources, net pay from a job and YouTube. And then I'll click OK. And now I get a little drop-down menu for my income categories. I'm going to do something similar for expense. I'll click on my first expense category, Data Validation, List, the source, go back to my summary, and I'm going to select my three possible expense sources, rent, groceries, or utilities. I'll click OK, and now I get a drop-down menu for those. So what I'm going to do next is I'm simply going to populate my checkbook register with appropriate income categories and expense categories. And this is obviously something you would do as you're entering in new rows of information into your checkbook register. For instance, John Smith, landlord, that's going to be an expense category. Oh, before I do that, I need to select these, and let me go and autofill them down. Let's try it this way. I'll just go all the way down to 300. There we go. So now I'll have drop-downs for each one. So let's try this again here. John Smith, landlord is an expense category. That'll be rent. Safeway, that's a grocery store. That's going to be groceries. Fred Meyer, grocery store, groceries. Ralphco Industries is my job. That's an income category. That'll be net pay. Oregon Electric, that'll be utilities. Fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and populate income and expense categories for my entire checkbook register. And in the next video, we'll use a SUMIFS function to populate our summary sheet with information from the checkbook register.